Mic test, one, two. Mic test, one, two, three. Opo, ito po sa radio media. Yung mga staff, you can stay at the back on the side. Or stand lang rin po sa iyo. Arvidia, dito po tayo sa harap. We invite our legal friends to please take the seats in front. Yeah. Again, we invite our legal friends to please occupy the seats in front. Thank you. We will be beginning in just a few short minutes. I am Attorney Diana Camacho of the Advocacy, Communications, and Training Service of the DBM, and welcome to the 183rd press briefing of the Development Budget Coordination Committee. Before we proceed, let me remind our media partners of the following rules for the Q&A. So first, the moderator will ask the questions that were sent in advance to the Secretariat through the media registration form. The name and affiliation of the reporter will be recognized, and one follow-up question is allowed, if any. Second, after the advanced questions are asked, the moderator will entertain live questions from the media present here today. For our reporters, kindly state first your name and affiliation before asking your question. Due to time constraints, only one question and only one follow-up question will be entertained per media affiliation to accommodate everyone. A second round of questions may be conducted subject to time availability. Please note that this briefing is being recorded for documentation purposes, and we are also live on Facebook. Now, may I introduce our moderator for the 183rd DBCC press conference, Undersecretary Margo Salcedo.
Thank you, Director Ryan. Good morning to our media partners and DBCC principals. Joining us in today's press briefing are Secretary Amena Pangandaman of the DBM and Chairperson of the DBCC, Finance Secretary Ben Jokno, NEDA Undersecretary Rosemary Adrion, MDM Victor Bruce Tolentino, who is a member of the Monetary Board of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. And joining us as well this morning is GSIS President and General Manager Jose Arnulfo Witt Veloso. President Witt Veloso has nearly 40 years of banking experience and also was president of the PNB from 2018 to 2022, and he is joined our faculty as a resource person. And now let's officially start the press briefing with a reading of the 183rd DBCC joint statement by Secretary Pangandaman, the Chairperson of the DBCC. Secretary Pangandaman, ma'am, the floor is yours.
Good noon, everyone. Sorry for the delay. Review of the medium-term macroeconomic assumptions and fiscal program for fiscal year 2023-2028. The Development Budget Coordination Committee, or the DBCC, reviewed the government's medium-term macroeconomic assumptions, fiscal program, and growth targets for fiscal year 2023 to 2028 to take into account the latest domestic developments, global economic status, and the administration's priorities and strategies. On real growth projections, as the economy continues to reopen, domestic demand increased, and services and industry sectors improve, this enabled the country to register a 7.7% gross domestic product growth rate for the first 3 quarters of the year, surpassing the 6.5 to 7.5% target range for 2022. This momentum is expected to slightly decelerate in 2023 and range from 6 to 7%, considering external headwinds, such as the slowdown in major advanced economies. Nevertheless, growth is expected to pick up in 2024 to 2028 at 6.5 to 8.0%, as we push for government strategies and interventions in the Philippine Development Plan 2023-2028. These include modernizing agriculture and agribusiness, revitalizing the industry sector, and reinvigorating the services sectors, among others. Poverty incidence is projected to gradually improve, likely by reaching the 9% target of the administration by 2028. On our macroeconomic assumptions, the DBCC also approved the following revisions to the macroeconomic assumptions based on emerging data. You will see the table on the screen. The average inflation rate assumption for 2022 is slightly increased to 5.8% from the previous assumption of 4.5 to 5.5%, given the persisting high prices of food and transport costs. Nevertheless, inflation is expected to moderate in the medium term, reaching 2.5 to 4.5% in 2023, before returning to the target range of 2 to 4% in 2024 until 2028. Meanwhile, the assumption for the price of Dubai crude oil for 2022 is slightly adjusted to 98 to 100 US dollars per barrel, considering global supply constraints on oil. This is expected to gradually slide to 80 to 100 US dollars per barrel in 2023 before stabilizing at 70 to 90 USD per barrel in 2024 to 2028 as oil supply catches up with the demand over the medium term. Likewise, the peso-dollar exchange rate assumptions for 2023 and 2024 were adjusted upwards as the peso continues to depreciate due to heightened global uncertainties and aggressive monetary policy tightening of the U.S. Federal Reserve. This is expected to range from 54 to 55 USD in 2022 and further increase to 55 to 59 in 2023. Nonetheless, the peso is expected to appreciate and stabilize at 53 to 57 USD in 2024 to 2028. With the BSP's policy normalization measures and expected pickup in foreign exchange inflows. As domestic demand recovers, goods imports growth projection for this year is increased to 20% and revised to 4.0% in 2023. Goods exports, on the other hand, are adjusted downwards, 4.0% in 2022 and 3.0% in 2023, but are expected to stabilize at 6% in the medium term. Both trade assumptions reflect the gradual recovery of trade with the normalization of economic activities globally and domestically. On medium-term fiscal program, revenue projections for 2022 is adjusted upwards to 3.5 trillion pesos, following better than expected revenue performance from January to October 2022. This is attributed to the improved tax collection and digitalization efforts of the national government. Meanwhile, revenue projections in the medium term are expected to be from 3.7 trillion pesos in 2023 to 6.6 trillion pesos in 2028, as tax reforms from the previous administration and strategies to ensure environmental sustainability are continuously being pursued. For 2022, full-year disbursement outlook is expected to reach 5 trillion, equivalent to 23% of the GDP. This is mainly attributed to large transfers to local government units, maintenance and other operating expenses as a result of the releases of the targeted cash transfer program and improved spending in infrastructure and other capital outlays, as well as personal services. Meanwhile, disbursements from 2023 to 2028 are also adjusted but are sustained above 20% of GDP, reaching 5.2 trillion in 2023, expanding to 7.7 trillion by 2028. Given the revised revenue and disbursement program, the DBCC revised its deficit projection to 6.9% of GDP for 2022, but maintained its target deficit for 2023 to 2028, which shall progressively decline from 6.1% of GDP in 2023 to pre-pandemic levels of 3% by 2028. This is aligned with the government's medium-term fiscal framework as the government continues to pursue a fiscal consolidation strategy over the medium term. On fiscal year 2024 National Expenditure Program, consistent with the macroeconomic assumptions and foregoing fiscal targets, the proposed fiscal year 2024 cash appropriations is pegged at 5.8 trillion. This proposed budget will continue to provide the necessary funding requirements to support the administration's goal of economic recovery and prosperity towards inclusivity and sustainability as encompassed in our 8-point socio-economic agenda. As we move forward, forward amid the sharp increase in inflation this year, the government commits to take actions that will mitigate the lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and impact of geopolitical tensions. Recognizing both opportunities and challenges, the DBCC stands united and believes that the Philippine economy can grow further at a robust pace by putting the right policies and spending priorities in place. We will continue working together for an inclusive and sustainable economy for all Filipinos. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So for those who would like a copy of the joint press statement, there is a QR code that will be flashed. And we have also emailed a copy of the DBCC joint statement to the email addresses provided upon registration. So please just take a photo, and it should link to a Google folder with all the details that you need. So digitalization. Without further ado, we will now move on to the open forum. I'll be reading first the questions sent in advance to our media registration form. For DBM or DPOF, can the economic managers please share their thoughts on the proposed sovereign fund? Do they think it is necessary? How it benefits the economy? Are the safeguards in the proposed bill enough? And perhaps maybe also Gian Veloso.
Could you repeat the question?
There are three questions with it. Can the economic managers please share their thoughts on the proposed sovereign fund? Do they think it is necessary? How will it benefit the economy? Are the safeguards in the proposed bill enough?
I think we should have the sovereign fund a long time ago, okay? It started in the Empire, right? We should have proceeded Empire should been set aside so that future generations of Filipinos should have benefited from it. Okay? So now we're thinking ahead. At this time, I think we should have a sovereign wealth fund as like other ASEAN countries, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and we should think of putting together some funds that are investable. Okay? These are not very highlighted because, for example, GSIS, they really give the treasury they could have invested in some worthwhile projects, some very sponsored projects, with a return of 30%. And so it is a responsibility of the pension funds to invest money so that the beneficiaries will continue to get higher benefits. So that's the really the notion of the wealth fund. So you don't need to have a surplus in the account to have the wealth fund. So, for example, if you have a steady source of revenues, like say, I mentioned, oil, mining, right? Even the bandwidth, right? We should have, looking back, we should have auctioned the bandwidth. You one, and should have earned money there and invested in the wealth fund. So that we should not only benefit current generations of Filipinos, but also future generations. That's the concept of the sovereign fund.
Thank you, sir.
President Vic will elaborate if you want to ask me questions.
Maybe to add to what the Secretary has mentioned, the investment of the pension funds by GSIS are into a company, nothing outside of what they're doing. Currently, all of the excesses after expenditures, after allocation for the retirement benefits of our members and other obligations are invested. So now we invest into a company that will now be able to train their guns and attention to developmental projects. You see, I reviewed how the sovereign wealth funds have evolved. At first, they started with whatever excesses that they have. It has transformed now to developmental, and that's what we countries like the Philippines have huge amounts of industrial requirements that are high capital expenditure, high capex. And that is the reason why a number of our key industries can really move forward because you need a lot of capital. And ang pera nasa dito sa atin, meron tayong pera. Kailangan namin pag-ipon-ipunin kami mga GFIs para itong pera na ito ay ma-allocate dito sa high capital expenditure businesses. Okay? Pag tinignan mo ang income statement mo, pagka ikaw ay nagagawa ng napakalaking mga proyekto, maganda ang EBITDA mo, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. But ang dating sa net profit, kung hindi swerte mo makabreak even ko o negative, talagang sino tatagal ng mga kumpanya ganyan dahil napakalaki ng capital expenditures. At itong capital expenditures na ito, pag ito'y matulungan natin, you improve employment, you improve taxation, you improve economic activity. Kaya nga ako kahit itong Vietnam at saka itong Indonesia, kahit sila ay deficit, gumawa sila ng sovereign wealth fund nila. At in Indonesia, for example, specifically mentioned developmental. So mag-identify ka kung alin ang mga kumpanya o anong industriya gusto mong suportahan sa bayan. O ngayon, ito na depende na sa ating economic managers. Pero tatanungin ko, kayo ba, minarinig ba kayo? Halos lahat ng bakal dito sa atin imported. At kaya nag-expand at namamaga ang presyo ng construction. Gusto nyo ba na magkaroon tayo ng sariling industriya at bumagsak ang presyo ng bakal? Gusto ko ba rin na magkaroon tayo halimbawa ng interest sa mga kumpanya na napakaganda ng investment? I won't mention names. But the Government Investment Corporation of Singapore invested in one of the prime energy companies in the Philippines at $2.50. 2 pesos 50. Umakyat yung share ko all the way to 30. Of course, hindi ko na alam kung nag-exit. Alam ko nung pumasok. Ayaw ko ba niya ng gano'n? At ako'y isa ng aking pangkuhin. Para sa mga miyembro ng gobyerno ng ating mga kliyente, gusto ko magbigay lahat ng benepisyo para sa kanila. Gusto ko ang mga miyembro ko sa GSIS ay makamit nila ang kanilang hinihingi na more benefits. Dito lang po kami na ehemplo. Ang contribution po ng aming mga miyembro ay 9%. Nagpo-contribute ang gobyerno ng 12% for a total of 21%. Pagka nag-retire po sila, 90% of their pay for the last 3 years, ibibigay po namin yan. At kung sila'y namatay, ibibigay po namin ang kalahati niyan sa kanilang asawa. At ano kung pagitan ng 21 at 90? Halos 70, 60, 70, 69 to the exam. Saan po namin kukunin ang pera na ibibigay namin sa ating mga miyembro? Ilalagay ko po sa deposito. 3%, 4%. Ay makuubos po ang pondo natin at wala ko tayo ibibigay. Ang kailangan po natin ay to have the same kind of investment techniques and strategies that the private sector is doing to be able to benefit our government employees. I'm jumping the gun kasi napakarami ko na pong nakikita na napakaraming mga mensahe, pagtatanong tungkol po dito sa ating ginagawang napakagandang bagay para pumunlad ang bayang Pilipinas. At ito po ay ating gustong gawin sapagkat kailan ba natin kailangan gawin itong mga bagay na ito? Nagtatakbuhan na ho ang ekonomiya ng ating mga kapitbahay. Paano naman ho tayo? What do we want to do? Yung iba naman ho nagtatanong, bakit daw hindi namin ibigay yung pera sa kanila? At nahihirapan na raw sila. Hindi ko donasyon. Ang trabaho ko namin ay ang pera ilagay sa tamang lugar na kikita ng mas malaki. At para pag maibigay po sa amin, ay maibigay po namin benepisyo sa mga miyembro namin. At yun na lang po, Secretary, bumaba na po yung aking explanation. Ngunit ito po yung aming meron po kasi sir na nababanggit pa, limited na ba? 1 MDB. Yung 1 MDB, I'll share with everybody, tignan niyo how it was structured. Yung kanilang head ng 1 MDB was the Prime Minister. Siya rin ang sole signatory to all business transactions. Eh, hindi po tayo ganun. Unang-una po, ito kung envision po na sovereign wealth fund, meron po kayong board. Meron pang solusyon na magsama ng private sector na independent director. Eh, binungkahi po na yung presidente po ng Bankers Association of the Philippines sapagkat sa araw-araw na ginawa ng Diyos, ang kanilang trabaho ay investment and makita ang oportunidad sa mga kliyente. Nilagay din po yung Philippine Stock Exchange President. Pagkat sa araw-araw din po ang kanilang trabaho ay tignan kung paano nag-i-invest ng tama ang mga kumpanya at ang mga nag-i-invest in public. At meron po kayong auditor, meron ka ng internal audit, meron ka ng internationally recognized auditor, at meron pa po tayong commissioner audit, meron pa po tayong congressional oversight, meron pa po tayong pag-report sa madla at lahat po kayo rito ay magkakaroon ng oportunidad sa pag-ibigyan kayo ng annual report. Makikita po ano po ang performance. Kaysa ngayon nagsasabi naman, ngayon po ba may panahon at masama ang merkado, ngayon ba ang panahon para tayo mag-invest? I've always believed in my years of investing, you invest when the market is down. You invest when there's blood on the streets. You now have an opportunity to select companies that are able to have a good opportunity to survive, good fundamentals during this period and accumulate them at cheaper levels. Sir, sorry po at umaba po. Napakarami ko na po kasi nabasa galing mo. Baka lalabas mo lahat yung mga kanta naman, binigyan mo kasi kayo ng isang pagkakataon na magtanong. Gusto ko na pong sagutin lahat sapagkat sigurado pong lalabas yan mamaya.
Thank you so much, President Veloso. Our next question is for the BSP. What is your prognosis on the BOP for next year, and how much will the national government's foreign borrowings be to achieve this BOP forecast?
Thank you. Well, last September, our estimates for BOP would be 8.4 billion, 2% in 2022 this year. And it will go down to 0.6% in 2023. That's the estimates as of September. However, we will have new numbers, new estimates released by Friday. So watch out for the new estimates.
There's a follow-up question, sir. How will the BOP forecast be affected if the Philippines continues to remain in the FATF gray list, or if the country slips into the blacklist, as what happened to Myanmar last October when it failed to meet its commitments?
Well, we are very different from Myanmar, and we don't have the military in charge, and we don't have other issues hounding us, so I'm glad we're here. Of course, the management of our position in FTAF is a whole of government effort. It's not only the DSP. It has to do with the AMLC, it has to do with DOJ, it has to do with legislation. And legislation in particular, the Secrecy of Deposits Act, which we have been pushing for a long time, needs to be resolved because we, Philippines, is the only country, including, aside from Lebanon, that still has. Okay, so we are unique. We are the only country with a Secrecy of Deposits Act. Why don't we get rid of it?
Thank you, sir. Okay, so now let's proceed to the questions from our media partners who are present here today. We would like to remind our media partners to kindly state your name first and affiliation. Who would like to go first? Anyone? Mr. Chino? Yes, sir.
Some question regarding the increased revenue outlook for 2022. Saan nagaling yung increase? And I mean, did you change the targets of BOC and BIR?
To start with the target, the target of the framework, I think we have an estimate here of the annual estimate annual.
Sir, if you could speak closer to the mic, the back end.
After the immediate fiscal framework, revenue forecast for 2022 to 2023 was 3,304 billion. Let me stop there. Our emerging revenue forecast now is 3,516 billion. So meron kami excess na 212 billion. And it's mostly because of the IR, but some pure cost inflation. And I think that's because of the increase in oil prices, plus the devaluation, plus and then on the non-tax revenues.
What's the emerging collection of customs for this year?
This is the rate that's January to October. Euro customs revenues as of now is exactly this is already collected 713.5 billion, which is already in excess of our target. Full year target.
Yung customs are released today ng January to November nila. And actually, it's already stated their 2023 target.
2022.
Even for 2023, they already.
So that's how good the tax collection.
Does it mean that you will raise the BOC target for 2023? Because as of the first 11 months, they already. Is it sustainable? Is it just driven by strong dollar and increase in fuel costs?
Where is the region fiscal plan? But the point is, we are revising also because of the higher revenues, we are revising our budget, but we will maintain the deficit level. Okay? I will give you the numbers, specific numbers. Okay? Kumabasa ito, hindi ko.
Presentation.
No, okay. Yeah, but basically we are adjusting, okay, based on the higher revenues. That's your question, okay?
Sir, next question.
Next question.
Hi,
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Andrew Alonso from Bloomberg. So I just want to ask the primary reason for the downshift this 2023 target natin in 6 to 7 siya. You mentioned, I remember last DBCC meeting we had a comparison na yung economy natin is like a car that has that will be powered by agriculture and etc. etc. But what's happened to the car now? I mean, what will slow it down next year?
We targeting 6.5 to 8. That's the original fiscal framework. We have adjusted it to 6 to 7. Yeah, that's our target. Not several township here. It's the global slowdown that is affecting the adjustment. Okay? It has nothing to do with the car, okay? It's global.
Yeah, and as mentioned by Sec Ben, it's actually the headwinds if we talk about the car. No? So my global headwinds. So as already forecasted by the multilaterals, IMF, ADB, World Bank, there is expected to be a global economic slowdown. So that could affect us, but of course we have a strong domestic demand, and we are actually banking on that. And of course the start and implementation and Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028, which we think will provide that yung shield for all those headwinds.
How do you think will consumption hold up, especially given the inflation environment we have now?
Yes, for inflation, we think that by 2023, as already forecasted also by the BSP, there will be also a slowdown in the inflation. We're hoping that the global oil prices will also stabilize by next year. And although there will be a slowdown, admittedly, of the household consumption, we think that with improved consumer sentiments, because there are still other sectors that need to ramp up its economic activities like recreation, tourism, and with this one, with many other things happening like the holiday economics, for instance, this will actually help ramp up consumption next year.
That's na lang po from me. Yung FX assumption natin for 2023, naging 55 to 59. We're already trading at the 55 level now. So does this mean that you're seeing the economic manager seeing further weakness for the peso, and why is that so?
I refer to the BSP to answer that.
Well, looking at the full year numbers for 2022, the forecast have held firm. Now, there are uncertainties, of course, in the future. Nobody knows how long the war will last in Ukraine, and nobody knows how long the effects of that war will be on food prices as well as oil. So we need to be careful in making the forecasts for next year and onward. On the other hand, growth domestically has been pretty good, better than expected, in fact. So we hope that that will help us ensure that we can keep the numbers steady. We've already been able to do that with increases in policy rates over the last few weeks, and we expect to really be careful managing it forward.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi sir, good afternoon. Mauricio from the Philippines Fund. Sir, just regarding the Marlica Wealth Fund, I understand that PACCOR revenues will be eventually injected into the fund, gaining revenue, sir, from PACCOR. Is there a way, or is the UF changing its stance on its stand on POGOs, given that a portion of the wealth fund will be coming from PACCOR revenues? Is there a change of stance from the DOF regarding this?
No change in stand. We're still anti-pogo, okay?
Sir, just another follow-up regarding the wealth fund. I understand that there are many economists and political analysts that are saying that maybe the government could get the 200 billion estate tax from the Marcos family just to help in the management of the wealth fund. Is this something that the DOF, as handling the BIR, will be looking into moving forward?
That's been asked.
There are a number of ways now. The answer is it's still in the court. Okay.
But moving forward, sir, is this something that you will be
It's still in the court. We don't know what will be the decision of the court. So let's not speculate on how it will turn out. Okay.
Next question. Yes, a lady in black at the back.
Naomi Tiburcio of PTV Purpose, Sakina, what major programs, projects in 2023 will help the country reach the fastest economic growth in the Asia Pacific region as forecasted by Moody's?
Okay, this one. But first of all, the BICAM has been closed kanina, so our budget will be ratified this afternoon. We haven't seen the result what has been ratified, but hopefully, based on what we have presented with our MEP, our budget is still anchored with the 8-point social economic agenda. This is generally, if I can just mention it, more than 40% of our proposed budget is focused on cornered to develop our human capital and at the same time fund our infrastructure projects. So if I will enumerate, I'm sure you already know this, some of the expenditure priorities, of course, as written in our 8-point social economic agenda, this is on food security. We increased by more than 30% our budget for the Department of Agriculture and Support Services, improved transportation, affordable clean energy, social services. We will continue to provide targeted cash assistance to our vulnerable sectors, healthcare, education, and bureaucratic efficiency. This is funding much on our digitalization efforts. 103 billion, I think, will be still be given to BIR and Bureau of Customs. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions from the press?
I have a question.
Yes, why? Sorry, what is that?
Good afternoon, Jensen from UK. What kind of what kind of assets or projects the Harika Fund will invest in? Are we talking about domestic projects or domestic assets?
Sir, allow me to answer the question. Funds like Sovereign or Maharlika can invest domestically or can invest abroad for diversification. But however, the objective really is a safety and a return. And if you find the opportunity domestically because it helps nation building, then we prioritize domestic opportunities. Other investments have already been focused overseas. Okay? And I would like to also shoot two birds with one stone. Invest with good return and at the same time have relationship.
And what role will it play, for instance, in the PPP program? Will it play a role as we launch the PPP program?
The public-private partnership is a structural arrangement where if the fund manager eventually finds an opportunity, then they will decide to invest. But as of now, they're still formulating how the whole organizational setup of the fund will be to ensure that we have the proper organization, that we have the transparency, that we have the accounting, and we have the proper reporting mechanism to the public.
Thank you. Warren first, and then Yes?
Hi, Ryan, this is my name is again. This is for Mr. Tony. Regarding the Maharlika Fund, there are some concerns raised by economists on the independence of the DSP. If you're forced to divert dividends directly to the fund, can you comment on that?
I'll comment from the narrow point of view of the BSP in particular. BSP supports any effort by the national government to broaden and widen its fiscal space. Lord knows we need it. Now, with regard to how the proposed contributions are going to impact on the role of BSP, well, that has to do with the gross international reserves and the supervisory role that BSP has over banks. Now, on the gross international reserves, you will know, and it's been obvious in the last few weeks, that we have needed the JAR to help manage volatilities in the exchange rate. We've had to do that because the pressure exerted by the global changes occasioned by the Fed have forced us to intervene more than usual in the foreign exchange market. And so, as you could see, last year our JIR was close to 110 billion US dollars. Now it's down to 95. We've expended some ammunition in helping that, and we'd like to try our best to preserve that ammunition for future battles. That's one aspect. On the supervisory role with regard to the banks, we of course want to make sure that DBP and Land Bank remain strong. And we will check on the potential issues that have to do with their investments, potentially in Maharlika, because we'd like to apply the rules insofar as it applies to all banks.
Your follow-up.
This is for Mr. Veloso. Regarding the role of GSIS in providing funds for the Maharlika Fund, you mentioned earlier that you want to look for higher return. But my understanding is the charter of the GSIS, there are safeguards there to ensure that the fund is not put into too risky assets. So how does that your purposes in GSIS and then your search for return, how do you reconcile that?
I have to dissect your points. Your first point is about risk management, and we have a risk management parameter. That is correct. And that is why we are investing in this proposed Maharlika, which is going to give us a risk-free return based on the proposal in Congress. In the course of time, whether that investment will yield us better than what is the opportunity ahead of us as investors in GSIS, I'm optimistic that with a number of economic managers and minds that are working in the Maharlika, there are going to be more opportunities for us to earn money and have return that.
Sorry, you said risk-free. How do you legislate risk-free?
The proposal of there's a proposal of Congress to make the investment of the GFIs in the Maharlika risk-free. That remains to be seen. It's still going to be going through Congress. It's very early to say as of now. But I'll tell you one point in investing. There's no such thing as no risk, no return. And that is the reason why if you want your investment to be totally risk-free, don't expect any return. I have an obligation to my members to be able to pay their benefits, and it is my obligation and duty based on my experience in managing risk, to be able to use it properly and be able to help my stakeholders. My stakeholders are the government employees that I need to make sure that their money is safe and protected, and to continue to service the pensioners that we service regularly.
Thank you, sir. Maybe has a question.
Hi, Roman Loyan from Filter.com. I'm just going to ask Mr. Lawson, maybe also the other economic managers on the Maharlika, according to foreign business chambers, the creation of SWFs entail high public trust.
Ask the question, please, madam.
According to foreign members of foreign business chambers, the creation of sovereign wealth funds entail high public trust with the government. Does the government have funding to sort of guarantee the SWF if it runs, let's say, foul from bad investment decisions?
Your question is, does the government have the power to?
Or can it guarantee sort of the funds? Kasi gagamitin po is, I think the pension, like the SSS and the GSIS. So, can it sort of guarantee?
Sir, we are an investor investing our money in a company called Maharlika. Maharlika then have their own funds to invest. It is now the duty of the chief investment officer to ensure that they select good investments. If they are able then to have volatility in the market, that is expected. Some of the comments in the market right now that I read today is that some of the funds are down or not. Kayo ba may nakapag-invest ng equities or bonds? Kung siguro kayo nakapag-invest yung sarili ng equity, magtataka kayo, nag-invest kayo 2 years ago, bumagsak ang equity price. Bumagsak ang equity price dahil po, it's a global circumstance that is part and parcel of the business of investing. Hindi mo naman binabantayan investment sa loob ng 6 na buwan. It is over a period of time. Masala na kami, technically ang aming investment. Now, in terms of making sure that we provide the proper investment risk mechanism, meron din po tayong natawag na risk management office. The risk management office will make sure that all the parameters in risk management are there. In fact, to be able to say, this is the baseball field that you play. You do not go out of this baseball diamond. You can only play inside the baseball. So, yan po ang mga parameters na to make sure that this is going to be safe and secure. Nagpapasalamat po ako sa tanong ko sa members of different tawag nyo, anong membership yung nabanggit po nyo? Foreign business chambers. I hope I'm not a member of those business chambers because those are things that they're very familiar with.
All right, and ma'am?
Good afternoon po. Sir, just to ask a question regarding growth, consider po ba to China because cases are rising and how is it going to affect our growth next year? Is it considered one of the headwinds? Also, there are some economists who are saying that we have somehow decoupled from China, our dependence on them in terms of our imports. Do you think that is true? And is that already considered in your projections for next year? Thank you.
Yes, on the question of the China, what they call the dynamic zero COVID policy, that's already included in the assumptions. In fact, primarily the channel, the transmission channel is also via the global economic slowdown, and of course still the international tourist arrival. which we hope to be more than compensated by yung domestic tourist arrival. And at the same time, as you would have observed, we have been relaxing travel restrictions, even for international travel. We want to make it very easy, and there will also be an aggressive tourism campaign. We also see opportunities actually with respect to this China assumption, because even Apple is looking to relocate its manufacturing. So we hope that we can corner some of those investments, and and that's also been factored in particular the PD program.
Last question, Nancy. Regarding the sovereign wealth fund, what's the opportunity cost? If we don't do it, what would be the charging?
Yan po yung nabanggit ko kanina, napakaraming industriya, napakalaki capex, capital expenditures. At dyan po nahihirapan ang ibang mga kumpanya to be able to pursue a number of key projects. Primarily because they need to source funding. At ginagawa po natin, gusto natin makatulong at ma-identify ko ano po itong mga industriya na ito na prioridad ng Republika natin para umusad ang ating ekonomiya. Sapagkat pag sila po ay natulungan natin sa capital expenditures, makapag-invest tayo either in equity or in debt form. Ang kanilang pong mangyayari dyan ay makakapag-expand pa po sila. Pag nag-expand yan, more employment, more taxes, at yan po ang kinakailangan po natin sa bansa natin. Kailangan po natin trabaho. At yan po ang siguradong paraan para magkaroon ng trabaho ang ating mga mamamayan. Ngayon po, pag may buwis, ayan po ang ating pong gasolina para tumakbo ang mabuti ang ating ekonomiya. So, napakalaking pagbabago, malaki pong diferensya kung hindi mo natin mas tulungan. At mahirap po isa-isa tingnan. Napakarami pong proyekto, napakalaki ng capex.
Thank you. And last question from Chino.
Hi, sir. Regarding tungkol din sa Maharlika, I'm sure you've read comments, criticism about the fund, and many of them are rooted from lack of trust, given our bad record of many GOCCs. So how would you address those criticism na rooted sa lack of trust in government?
Ako lang ang unang sasagot dahil sa lack of trust. Alam po ninyo, ang mamamahala mo ng mga ito, meron tayong mga board of advisors po dito. Kailangan po gobyerno na alam para alam nila kung anong direksyon. Nakikita nila kung saan kailangan ng pera. At dito na po magkakaroon sapagkat magkakaroon po kayo ng director dito that are going to be selected. Then you have the private sector representatives. At ang pinaka-importante po dito is that now you have remove the internal audit. You have the international audit. But more so, you now have your congressional oversight. And you have the publication of the report to the people. Yan ang pinaka-importante. Sapagkat in this day and age, wala po kayong pwedeng magawa na hindi malalaman. Okay? Media, lahat, especially now that, a lot of people are very much familiar with social media, they need their opinion, and the requirement for transparency is just so much. And with transparency comes then the point of addressing the lack of trust, because the lack of trust probably is something that we cannot change. Either you like it or not.
Okay, there are some 98 social welfare funds in the world, in 70 countries. Bakit natin pinagpipilitan ng isang failure? These are very, very successful SWFs in the world. Bakit natin pinipilitan ng isang figure? Sinabi nga yung characteristic nun. Isang tao lang pumipirma ng ano eh. That's not gonna happen here. Diba? Meron nga tayo internal audit. May external audit, internationally external auditor. May COA pa. Meron pang oversight committee at Congress and we produce annual reports. So, walang comparison yun. Parang gusto rin natin sabihin na sino ba nag-fail lang because of that saying Sri Lanka will be like Sri Lanka. Well, it's Sri Lanka. Okay? Let's have a little bit of trust in ourselves. Tsaka tayo ng Philippines is an open society. Hindi lang tayo matulad ng mga ibang bansa. Diba na ruled by military, dictatorial, or we have a very kaya na kayo nakakapagtanong, di ba? Kung other countries, hindi kayo makakapagtanong ng galing.
Okay, thank you. Sir, task in stone naman that the fund will be shared by the President.
Undergo the process, no? So, kada Congress, ng Senado, yung Kamara ng BICAM, and that's the... But, you know, in Singapore, ang Prime Minister ang chairman ng committee. Okay?
Okay, and that concludes today's DBCC press briefing. In case you were unable to scan the QR code of the press statement earlier, there is also a stand outside with the QR code where you may take a photo. We would like to thank our panelists, Budget Secretary and DBCC Chairman Annetta Pangandaman, Finance Secretary Benjamin Diokno,